Welcome everybody. Jason Klossner here, and I've got Scott Dewey joining me today. You know, Scott, before he started working here, was a full-time gunsmith for over 10 years. So anytime somebody here needs something done, we always call Scott to get it for us. So, you know, Scott, probably the biggest thing that we always come to you for is mounting and bore sighting scopes. So tell us, what are some of your gunsmithing hacks?
So the first thing, once you selected the proper base and rings for your scope setup, is going to be installing the base on the gun. For most guns, that's going to mean removing plug screws. So you just want to make sure you've got the proper bit on your screwdriver, a good thin one.
Yeah, you don't want to booger up anything.
Don't want to booger up the screw, don't want to scratch the receiver of the gun. So you remove the plug screws. Then I like to clean those holes, degrease them with alcohol, something like that, because a lot of times from the factory there's oil to stop the plug screws from getting rusted in the gun. Okay. So that's going to stop your locks.
Will that interfere with the Loctite?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it sure will. Yeah. So just taking a little cotton swab with some alcohol on it or something like that, dipping it in there. It doesn't hurt to clean the screws for the bases that you're going to be installing too when you do that. Then when I use my Loctite, I like using blue, and I like using the paste. The liquid can run into the gun, go through the holes, get into the receiver. It's something you have to be careful with, but with the paste, it's nice. You know, you don't get it running. Right. So I'll put that on the screws and put them in the gun, and then I use a torque wrench to torque them to between 20 and 25 inch-pounds. That's
the base?
Yeah, that's on the base.
And usually the manufacturer will have a suggestion in their manuals too, but as a general rule, 20 to 25 pounds for the base is about right.
Yeah, because almost all base screws will be threaded 648, so that's pretty much what you'll be looking at for that. Gotcha. In most cases. So then when I put the rings on, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the ring to the base first. And if I'm using a split vertical ring, you always tighten the bottom sets of screws in a split ring before you do the top. Completely tighten the bottom first. If it's just a traditional ring, I'll screw it on, torque it down, then set the scope in it. Make sure that it moves freely like it should. It's not binding, something is out of alignment. And then I'll put the top rings on. I don't typically use Loctite on ring screws, although some ring screws come preloaded with Loctite, so that's fine. Okay. But same thing, you torque those to between 20 and 25 inch-pounds.
So the same poundage for the rings?
Yeah, because typically they're threaded basically the same. But 648 is a pretty common thread for scope rings. And
yeah, is there any tricks for, you know, a lot of times, I mean, I can remember back in the day when I would tighten one side and then tighten the other, and then one side had a gap and one side was tight. I mean, so tell me, what was I doing wrong the whole time?
So the easiest way to do it is to go like you're doing a car tire almost. If you can picture on most, you've got two screws in the front, two in the back. So go opposites like you do a car tire when you're tightening it down like that, and that'll help you keep it even before you torque it down. Because a lot of guys, you know, they don't like those gaps.
All right. Well, okay. Now here's the biggest problem. And this is the one that I always struggle with. And I'd always be like looking around the house trying to find something that had a horizontal level plane. How do you get the crosshairs totally level?
The cheapest fix, the easiest way to do this with the stuff you have around the house is take something like yarn, something dark black yarn, and have a weight on the bottom of it, hang it, and that line is going to be level. So you take your base, because that's normally the flattest surface on your gun, and you level that off, left to right and front to back, so that it's plumb. Then you look through the scope and you line that crosshair up with the plumb line. That's the best way to do it. Some people level off the top of the scope. That's normally pretty close, but the true reading you get doing the crosshairs with a plumb line.
That would have been a lot easier than what I was doing before. So, all right, so we got it all mounted up. Everything's buttoned down. It's level. Bore sighting. What's your recommendation for that?
So I just like a columnator style bore sighter, nothing fancy. They come with all the different spuds for the calibers that you'll need. If you have something like a muzzle brake or a flash hider on there, if you have the ability to remove that, that will give you more accurate bore sight, because you can get the columnator to all the way way into the barrel. Right. And then you just dial it in. Make sure you've got plenty of adjustment either way.
Yeah, and you know, and one thing too is, even if it's bore sighted, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it is sighted in. You still got to shoot it. It should, in theory, get you on paper. But
it's just a starting point. It's just to save you a little bit of ammo at the range.
Right. And I'll tell you one trick I did learn over time is that if you do have to sight in like at a 25-yard range where you don't have anything further, you got to remember, you got to be shooting a little low at 25. If you're shooting dead on at 25, it's going to be way high at 100. So because that bullet is rising to meet it up to the scope. So You know, make sure and look at your Bliskus charts, but you always want to be about 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch low at 25 to be that dead on to 1.5 inches high at 100. So
that's right.
Other than that, well, good, Scott. Well, hey, we appreciate it. We love having you here because I tell you, a lot of us, you know, we're like, you know, a bunch of thumbs around here trying to fix this stuff, and Scott always whips it out and gets it done right. So until next time, aim higher.